The banks are trying to steal your cryptocurrency assets, whether that's in the form of Bitcoin, Ethereum, or any number of altcoins. This market crash has been so illogical, so irrational. I hinted at it earlier in this morning's earlier video. I talked about how I have a feeling that there's a coordination behind all of this. We had FUD out of Elon Musk, out of China, out of Binance being under scrutiny by the IRS, out of Tether news as well, USDT news that was less than favorable. So I kind of want to expound a little bit on this idea. This is not so much a video about, hey, seize the day, right? Like buy the dip and buy up assets when blood is running in the streets. No financial advice in this video. I do want to perhaps suggest that right now, that strategy that I just mentioned is what's being employed by a lot of the banking institutions out there. And I do have a feeling like this has been a coordinated FUD attack. There's different levels that we're going to touch on in terms of the conspiracy spectrum in this video. But just as a bit of a recap here, since the earlier video that was published today, we're at $1.789 trillion, well below 2 trillion right now. So that's down 14.6% total market cap. And the price of Bitcoin as I record is a little over 37K. It's hard to say because Coinbase is totally glitched out right now. Sites like CoinGecko and CoinMarketCap are glitchy, are inconsistent, aren't loading. They've been crashing on me. Even Binance, all my favorites have been kind of eliminated and rearranged. And just I think the platforms across the board are being overloaded and are being bombarded with a lot of traffic and a lot of activity. You can see the dip here was pretty pronounced indeed. Depending on the exchange or the source of information that you go to, this is saying a low of about 30,000. I think almost across all the other exchanges and platforms, you saw numbers lower than that. So in the $26,000, $27,000 range for Bitcoin, more like 27. But you know, the good news, if there is a silver lining here, is that we've bounced back right now a solid 10K or so since the lows of the crash today. And I want to actually really, give praise to Tim Pool here. I've been mentioning how Tim has been recently, and when I say recently, I mean the last like 6 months or so, Tim has really been talking about so many of these macro issues, and in fact talking about blockchain and decentralization and Bitcoin and Ethereum. He's had a lot of actually experts on his Timcast IRL podcast, including recently, about a week ago, Max Kaiser and Stacy Herbert, talking about issues that also overlap with the world of crypto, such as inflation and some other things that we're going to touch on in just a second. He's highlighting here, I'll just read the title in case you can't quite make it out. Bitcoin crashing hard. The rich are scamming you into panic selling. Inflation warnings are real. And this has really been a theme that's been pretty consistent across his work that he's been doing, and some of the more political channels of his as well touch on it. But inflation, we're just talking about last week, right? The CPI index came out with 4.2% as a figure. We'll take another look at that in just a second. But as he's highlighting here, so this is a headline that I saw earlier in the day. Wells Fargo Investment Institute is in the final stages of onboarding an active crypto strategy for its wealthy clients. We'll take a look at that in just a second. Let's kind of go to the more extreme side of the scale of our conspiracy scale here for just a second. I want to highlight that this is uncorroborated information right now. This is uncorroborated. I can't prove it. However, whether this is just a LARP kind of thing, so this could have easily just been photoshopped, I don't know. But this embodies, I think, a little bit of the spirit of what's happening today. So I'm going to read this out. Anonymous. Hey guys, insider here. This from Tuesday, so a little bit earlier in the week. For those of you that are not busy, moo bobo LARPing and paying attention, there will be another announcement from China soon. Picture is semi-related. Can't tell you guys what firm I work for, but it's massive and it's working with the PRC, the People's Republic of China, I believe. The purpose of today's press release alongside all the FUD posting is to get Bitcoin as low as it can get before 7 a.m. UTC. First, there will be a coordinated sell-off to drop the prices below a certain threshold and liquidate one certain stakeholder. Can't outright say who he is, but he bought a lot at the dip and he was partly responsible for putting two and two together there. I think you guys know who's being referenced. Once liquidated, the plan is then to buy up all the reserves and essentially leave him bankrupted. If you guys want to get rich, grab some coffee and watch for the big dip. Once it happens, things are going to get green really fast. We project $70,000. Now, I am actually on the side of thinking like that this is all made up, this is all fabricated. I don't think this is legitimate, but I think it does embody the spirit of what is happening now. So somebody probably just came in after the fact and, they photoshopped all of this together, and that's fine. It's kind of fun to read, and it tickles your mind a little bit, especially your conspiratorial bones there in your brain. But ultimately, this is the reality of the situation, and apparently I'm not an insider. So we got to go to a different article here. This is the same article republished from Business Insider on usanewssite.com. Wells Fargo Investment Institute is in the final stages of onboarding an active crypto strategy for its wealthy clients. Its president told us why the firm changed its mind on crypto and shared the key merits and risks of the inevitable asset. We're going to go through this in just a second because this is breaking news from today, the 19th of May. It's interesting timing, isn't it? It's interesting that all these banks are kind of consolidating their positions. They're really securing and finalizing their infrastructure to be able to enter this space. And at the same time, we're being scared out of our positions. A lot of the weak hands, the lettuce hands, as some are now calling them, are selling their final positions. It's all very suspicious to me because we can see the writing on the wall. We can see what's happening now, not only with banks like Wells Fargo, but JP Morgan is doing this. Citi is doing this. You have others. Goldman Sachs is doing this. Don't forget that just a few weeks ago at this time, we had this news. New York Dig. Bitcoin is coming to hundreds of US banks this year. Institutional Bitcoin solutions provider NY Dig has announced a partnership with leading fintech company Fidelity National Information, that's FIS, to bring Bitcoin services to hundreds of US banks in the coming months. And the partnership could allow countless customers to buy, hold, and sell Bitcoin through their legacy bank accounts, according to the firm. Quote, what we're doing is making it simple for everyday Americans and corporations to be able to buy Bitcoin through their existing bank relationships. That's a quote from no other than the head of bank solutions at NY Dig, Patrick Sells, who spoke to CNBC. Speaking of CNBC, they're covering this story. This is headline news. This is something that was in vogue, I think, up until recently. This particular article is from the 5th of May. So obviously we were talking about this. This encapsulated and represented a lot of the bullishness in the crypto space. And then just like that, things just turned on a dime for whatever reason. And I suspect that, again, I don't really subscribe to this. I think this is a little bit of LARPing and it's very hyperbolic, right? But for all we know, somebody just photoshopped this, right? So I don't think we can take this kind of stuff at face value. But again, the spirit of this post here, that there's going to be coordinated FUD out of China. They're going to liquidate some of the strong hands. They're going to release just this bombardment of FUD from different angles, right? The Elon Musk Tesla FUD, which largely, I believe, stemmed from environmental regulation pressure. So that's number one. Number two, China FUD. China bans Bitcoin again for what, the 1,000th time? Who cares? That's not news. But to the uninitiated, that sounds like a menacing headline. That's number two. Number three, we had reports about Binance, right, being potentially audited, potentially being under scrutiny by the IRS. And number four, we had news about Tether and some USDT FUD. All of this at the same time. Again, in the context of what we know is coming, hundreds of banks are ready to onboard Bitcoin, are getting ready to strengthen their crypto divisions. Very curious indeed, very curious indeed. And in my opinion, it also deflects from this very important story, which was extremely damaging to a lot of the macroeconomic talk, again on CNBC.com. Inflation speeds up in April as consumer prices leap 4.2%, fastest ever since 2008. This isn't going away. The consumer price index figures aren't going away. President Biden is proposing another several $1 trillion worth of printing, another stimulus bill. This is only just getting started. It's going to be exacerbated all the more by everything we've seen since the CPI numbers came out. I mean, think about it. Gas shortages, supply chain disruption, abysmal job numbers, unfortunately. And I'm talking from the American perspective now. I'm Canadian, but adopting the American point of view. This mixed incentive structure, this broken, in my opinion, incentive structure in which you have job shortages at the same time that unemployment is kind of coming up. So you have this stagflation effect where people that work, minimum wage or, $15 an hour or so, they are content to stay home. They're going to get $16 an hour with certain unemployment benefits. So you're literally incentivizing people not to work. There's just a lot of stuff going on right now. That's a perfect storm at the macro level, macroeconomics that is, that certainly gives me pause, certainly reminds me of why I got into cryptocurrency in the first place. In my opinion, the banks are not dummies. They're some of the smartest people in the world, at least the leadership of a lot of the banks out there. So again, Wells Fargo, JP Morgan, Citibank, Goldman, and others, they're all positioning themselves. They're all getting ready. Is it possible? Page unresponsive. Everything I have today is unresponsive because everything is just crashing. But is it possible that all of this has been coordinated to a certain degree? And whether or not we go back up to 70K, quickly, or whether this is something prolonged, I don't know. But my firm opinion is that this just reeks. There's this stench of manipulation and coordinated FUD. I don't believe it at face value. I think the bull market right now is not over, in my opinion. It's kind of been delayed. It's been paused in a weird way in this last ditch effort for the banking institutions, for the big legacy banks in this space to position themselves accordingly. So it's a very weird scenario right now. We're all kind of navigating this landscape together. CoinGecko, along with all those other sites, really under a lot of strain at the moment. But look, guys, there's never a dull moment in crypto, that's for sure. I don't want to necessarily present any of this as fact because it's very much speculation. In fact, going back to this post here, I suspect this is kind of fabricated and really is inauthentic. But again, it captures the spirit of what I'm trying to suggest. So take home message. Don't forget about what Wells Fargo is doing. Don't forget about these purportedly hundreds of banks that New York Dig assures us are stepping into Bitcoin with a lot of force, a lot of momentum, and a lot of financial backing. Don't forget about that. And don't forget about the macro trends right now, inflation, which is only getting worse and worse and worse. Maybe, is it possible? Is it crazy to suggest that crypto right now, Bitcoin, altcoins, is the space that's being viewed by a lot of these banks as the life raft, as the possible sanctuary from all the rest of these factors that are just going to decimate them in the coming years? And it stands to reason, if that is the case, well, then, maybe, they were responsible for this. Maybe it was coordinated. I cannot prove any of it, but those are just kind of some of the thoughts off the top of my head. Guys, make sure you're following us across all the regular social media channels. We are not fair weather fans. We're going to continue reporting for the rest of this bull market, for the rest of however long this journey takes us. We're going to keep doing it until the wheels fall off. Our website, altcoinbuzz.io. Make sure you keep following that and checking in for all the latest. Like, subscribe, share, hit the bell to receive notifications if you enjoyed today's video. Stay safe, everybody. None of this is financial advice, but best of luck if you choose to invest. And we do hope to see you again soon in our next video. Take care.